Oh my goodness. What is going on here? So we got a Nintendo DS Lite that was sent in. As far as I know, maybe it works. Let's go ahead and try to test it out first. So I'm gonna just look at this connector. So touchscreen's definitely not gonna work. This connector's destroyed. There's no way that's gonna hold anything down. This is gonna need to be replaced for sure. Let me take off the, well, power switch feels fine. Shoulder buttons are looking fine. Let's just go over the board and the other stuff that might be going on here. And then we'll test and we'll see what symptoms we run into. This is fine. Let's plug it all in. We're going to plug it all in and we'll test and see if it's working. I should have checked the fuses because I try to power this thing on. Nada. No power. And this is a known good battery. It's charged. So let's go back under the microscope and we'll take a closer look at the board to see what else might be going on. I'm going to put my multimeter into continuity mode, which will just tell me, it'll give me a beep if there's a continuous line between both probes. And I do see what looks like some corrosion. The water damage indicator has not been tripped, but that does not mean there hasn't been moisture in this area. On the DS Lite console specifically, I don't know if it has to do with the flux that they use, but this is a common area where even if there's no water damage, this fuse can blow. Let's see. It looks like that's fine. How about this diode? It's not shorting. This one? No. And how about the line between this fuse and the battery? And the other side? So that's fine. How about ground? Okay, so the connection to the battery is fine. I didn't get any power light whatsoever. And this fuse at the top here won't cause the system to not boot, but I'm just going to check it while I'm up here anyways. That's fine. We'll check this filter while we're here. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so what's the problem? There's this chip that looks a little suspicious. I don't know what that is. It's very short on any of these. No. This whole area does look a little suspicious though. So I think what I'm going to have to do is we'll pull this out, we'll clean it up, and we'll do some more testing. So we'll be right back. Okay, so the board is out. I'm just going to put some alcohol down. This area doesn't really look that great. Let's see if we can tell what's going on. There's this little section and this little chip, this Q5. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's just dust or something. Let's check those components one more time, just make sure there's nothing weird going on. Maybe one of these resistors is bad. Let me check the resistance on this guy. Let's see. It's varying. 96.9K. Let me pull out a DS donor board, which had a bad CPU. And we can compare. So here's the donor board, which I pull parts off of. And we want to look at that same spot. I'm going to measure this. We'll see what we got. I'll just go from this point to here. 100K, exactly. Let's check it one more time. It's a little off. It's 100K. 96K. It's off by almost 4,000 ohms. And that could be for some other reason. Let's take a look close at these vias on the other side. Now the DS Lite has another layer in between. So if something is bad, this board also feels sticky. I don't know if that's because it's been worked on before. Look at that. What's going on there? Dirt? A lot of dirt. This capacitor doesn't look good. That solder joint does not look good. So here's what I think I might do. Let's take this chip off. A little worried about that via as well. I do wonder if this board has been worked on before. But let's just start with taking this chip off and see what we got. Okay, let's add some flux there. This Game Boy Advance connector port is here, but I can't really do anything about that. I'm not going to take off that whole port just for this guy. I'm just going to get it in as close as I can. And we'll take this off. Let me turn my airspeed up all the way. We'll let that cool and I'll be right back. So I am going to come back to that donor board, the regular board in just a second, but I'm going to take a look at the donor here. So let's look at the battery circuit. So we have the F2, which is this guy right here. And okay, so where does this go? Where does this go? The battery power. Does it even go to this chip? Either this side or this side. Yes, it does. And then where else does this go on the board? Let me pause and I'm going to poke around and I'll find out. So I found it. It goes, let me poke my probe in the right spot. It's going to go right over, there's this Mitsumi power management IC. It's coming right over here to this pin. So what I'm curious is if this line is broken on the other board. So let me turn this back around, and we got our power battery line, which is going to be right here. And let's come over to that Mitsumi. Let me move this Wi-Fi module out of the way. And let's see. It should be right here. So that line is not broken. It is coming in. And all that dirt around that, I think it's like a power. I think it's a converter. Not really sure. Let's see if this is still measuring that 96K or whatever that was. I don't know if that would make a difference, but let's measure this. It's 100K now. So maybe there was something, maybe there's something wrong with the chip. So here's the chip. And what if I measure between, I probably won't be able to measure anything between these. Let's go ahead and just replace that chip, just to see what happens. Just because it was dirty, didn't look good. Oops. My bigger worry would be that it's something relating to the CPU, which I've seen. Okay, so here's the donor board. And that component may be fine. And it's very possible that that has nothing to do with the issue that we're having here. But I'm just going to replace it because it didn't look good. And for diagnosing purposes. And that resistor is measuring 100K after removing this component. Let's see what it measures when we are able to replace it. Okay, there's our new one. Let's move this out of the way for now. Let's go ahead and put this in the same orientation. Gonna put some flux down on the original board. Let me get my iron on. Okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and tin it. Some fresh solder. Let me go ahead and touch this capacitor on the other side too while I'm here, because it looked a little dark. Okay, let's put that new component in place. Fume extractor is on. Okay. Hot air's at 360, full air speed. Release. Let's go ahead and add some more flux. I'm going to heat it again. poke it. Release. Let's press down, heat it one more time. Release. Let that cool. The plastic on top is going to get a little spicy. Let's just go ahead and heat up this diode too. Just reflow that joint. We're going to come back to those, but let's just see if that has done anything. Let's let it cool for a minute. Okay, so it's still not working. I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to remove the cartridge slot, because sometimes I have seen damage hidden under there, and with the way that that little area looked, I wouldn't be surprised if there was something more underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've looked around a bit more at the board after a quick food break. And I can't really see anything that would obviously cause the system not to turn on. One thing I'm going to do just really quick, just before I go nuclear on this thing, I'm just going to try reflowing a couple of these components over here, just because they look a little rough. And we'll see if that helps. If that doesn't help, then I'm going to do the nuclear option, which is just reflowing the CPU and RAM. I'm hoping I don't have to, but I have seen flex damage on some of these DS consoles. So it's possible that's what's going on. I think what I want to do is I want to add some fresh solder to some of these joints because they look real dry. Do the same thing over here. And the same thing here. Let's go touch up this one too. And then the other thing I'll do is I'm just going to check this diode. No reading that way. How about this way? 0.217. I don't know, maybe the diode's bad. Which, if I don't have to reflow the CPU, that'd be great. 0.21, so that's the same. How about this one down here? 0.189. .17. It's close. And let's check this resistor. Finally. Unless this resistor's shorting. That would certainly be something. Is it shorting on the old board? Yes. It's 1 ohm. How about this guy? $449 ohms. Let me check on the old one. Well, after reflowing, let me try one more time. Yeah, those components didn't do anything. Let me just try one more time with the Wi-Fi module connected, just in case that does make a difference. I don't think it does. It should still do the green light. And nada. Let's try with a different Wi-Fi module, just in case. Okay, different Wi-Fi module did not work. So we're gonna just do a reflow. For this, instead of having the camera directly beneath, I actually want to put my microscope in a spot where I can actually see the solder underneath the chip. Let's see. I'm going to come in a little closer. Point this down. So there, I can see the solder balls underneath the CPU. That's perfect. Then I'm going to need my tweezers for poking. Got my ultra wide nozzle on. I'm going to do 420 degrees, 90% airspeed. Let's focus on warming this up first. I'm going to try looping my arm around here, so I have some way to poke the CPU to verify movement. So I'm just warming it up a bit. I'm going to go ahead and put some flux all around the CPU. And again, this is a common thing that can happen with the DS Lite consoles because it uses that BGA CPU. And it's right under the cartridge slot. If you're trying to do some repair work on the console and you try to pull that board out, you flex a joint that was just a little bit too fragile. Okay, I think we're fully molten. Just going to poke the CPU. Give it a few more seconds. Release. And let's let that cool for a minute. We can see those solder balls turn solid again. I think what I want to do next is I want to focus my attention on the RAM, even though might not need it. I still would like to reflow that anyways. We can see that all here. And it's going to be kind of the same process. We're going to put some flux all around it. This should be a little bit quicker to reflow. Let's see what happens. The board should already be nice and toasty. Okay, let go. We'll wait for that to solidify. There it goes. There it goes. Alright, I'll be right back when this is cooled off for about 4 or 5 minutes. So as a last ditch effort, the only thing I haven't tried is changing out this chip. I've confirmed that this will be a little bit hard to pick up, but I've confirmed that the voltage from the battery is going straight into this chip, and it's the only one that seems to be in the way of it working. So I'm gonna just try to remove it, and we'll put the new one on, or the donor. Let's see if I knocked anything off here. No. Okay. Let's tin these pads with some fresh solder. That looks good. Let's get the chip off the old board. We want to make sure the orientation is going to be correct. The dot is going to be the bottom left. It's just like this. Okay, chip is off. Let's move the old board out of the way. The donor board, I mean. Put the board we're working on here. I just want to clean that area. Okay. This chip's just a little awkward because I can't really grab it. I should be able to see the alignment. Just about perfect. At least I can on one side. Let's see how this goes. I'm gonna release. Just want it to stick on for a second. You get that flux around it. And then let's try to flow that in place. Release. Let it cool just a second. Now I want to press gently. Heat again. Oops. No good. Does look centered. Try it again. Hopefully I can do that without moving it around. Just let that cool. Okay, let's examine those joints. That looks great. That also looks good. That looks good. I think I'll just touch it up with an iron real quick. I don't have high hopes for this. But if this doesn't work, I have no idea what it could be. It's just not accepting any power. Okay. Let me pop the battery on and we'll see if it works. You're never going to believe this, but it works now. This is incredible. This is a history in the making for me. This is the first time I've seen this. Let me see if I could just show you on the side here. The power light was not coming on at all before, and it's out of focus now, but that green power light is coming on now. It comes on, and then it should shut off when it doesn't detect the, I guess it just stays on. But let me plug in the little Wi-Fi board. And it should come on and then turn off again. Yes. Wow. So now what I really want to see is I want to know if this thing actually boots with the screens attached. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to plug in the Wi-Fi module. Volume up, I think. Fingers crossed. Oh! It works! The bottom screen is screwed though. So... and obviously the touchscreen is also ruined. So we'll see what we can do. So the bottom screen does not appear to be working. I'm just going to check the connector to see if that's okay. I believe the connector is fine. Maybe there's some corrosion under the pins. Let's check the backside. It looks good. Oh, what's this? Is that corrosion? Let's take a closer look here. Could possibly just be corrosion. Maybe I have another screen to check. I'll have to see what I have on hand. Yeah, but that via does not look good. That might be power, but I'm not sure. Let me see if I have another screen I could test. Okay, so I discovered something. This via does go somewhere, and it is broken. So we need to figure out where that goes. Give me just a minute and I'll see if I could find out. Okay, so I've discovered that this lower one, this 1, 2, 3, right here, is supposed to be connected with the test point leading to pin 1 on the touch display. So here's the donor board. And let me flip this over so I can use it as an example. Excuse all the solder mess. Third one down, and we'll bring it over. First pin comes to this test point. I'm sorry, is the middle pin. So let me just confirm that it is broken over here. So we got the middle pin. We're going to come over, and it's supposed to be this test pad. Oh, it is connected. Okay. So it must be the screen. I must have misread something there, because I thought it wasn't connecting through to the via on the other side. Which it might not be. But that doesn't mean that the connection is totally broken. It could just mean that the solder there is broken, because if I check here, it does in fact connect through. Let me just check to make sure it doesn't go anywhere else, and then we'll keep going. So now I'm having intermittent issues where the system will boot if the lower screen is not in. This is a working board, so I'm just going to go through and take some measurements, and I'll jot them down in a notepad. I'm going to be using diode mode. I just want to check each of these pins to see what readings I get. So let's go through one by one. Zero 0.55. 0.02. I'm just going to do this the whole way down, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the board we're working on here. We're going to compare it to the known good board. Maybe we need to remove this connector. So I'm just going to go down one by one. If there's any differences, I'm going to mark it. So I'll be right back if I find any differences. Well, I didn't see any differences on that side, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and remove this connector anyways, because that's the one way I'm able to repeat this issue. And I want to look at what's going on underneath. So let's go ahead and give that a go. So I'm needing to rearrange this setup here. I'm going to put the board up on its side. What happened here? Two little flakes of solder from something. Here's what I want to do. I've never done this before. Never had to replace this connector. But first time for everything, eh? And the only thing I'm worried about is that variable resistor behind it. But just gonna have to do it. Because this is the one thing that is staying in common. And when this is ready, I'll just push that connector down. Oh, the connector's off. It all looks good. Maybe there was some corrosion or something in there. Let's look in the connector. Now that we have a good view. It all looks fine. Let me test the board one more time, make sure it's still turning on. Now it's not turning on. Isn't that interesting? Okay, back to the drawing board then. So I found something, and I don't know if I'm going crazy, but it seems like if I put a drop of alcohol in this area, all of a sudden it works. Let me test it right now, and it doesn't work. Let me dab this area in alcohol, and now let me try. If it works, it'd be funny. No. Okay, so that didn't work. Now what if I soak this little component right there? Does it work now? And I'll just let you know. No. Okay, so what's next on this list? What about this resistor? No. What about one of those capacitors? Or this, let's try this area right here. Now let's try. No. Let me just put a drop there. So I just covered that whole area with it. And it boots. Let me see if I can repeat the results. I'm going to dry it off with my hot air. Now let me try again. Does not boot. So what is it? What is it in this area that's doing this? Now what about this little guy right here? I don't know if I saw him before. Where does he go to? Is this voltage detect? Is that what it's supposed to be? Let me check on a working board. I just want this misery to end. Also, I'm realizing that my working board has a lot of corrosion going on, but it should be working, so let's check that anyways. Which one is this? Well, it's not voltage detect. So, I'm going to have to look at a diagram and see where it goes. To see, well, let me see if it even is connected to the other side. Just that little via. That doesn't look so hot. When I drop alcohol in this area, suddenly it works for some reason. Does it connect? No, it does not connect. Maybe that's it. So let me find where that's supposed to go on the board, and we'll try to patch it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so it's going to be this guy right here. He comes all the way over here. This guy right here. So that's right above, right next to this D3 label. Let's go to our broken board. And when I drop alcohol in this spot, it works. My bet is that it's not connected. But let's see. It's right above that D3 label. It's not working. Now let me drop some alcohol in that spot. And let's see if it works suddenly. No. But maybe some voltage is getting through because it's lowering the resistance. So let's do this. Let's run a jumper wire from the top of that over to where we need it to be. Will this saga end? I hope so. Maybe this will be the end of it. And maybe it wasn't that power IC after all, and maybe I'm just wasting my time with that. That's very possible. And the only reason I'm going through this great length is because this console, the customer has expressed that this is sentimental to him, and you know, if it was my console, I would want to be fixed as well. And first of all, let me just make sure that this diode is the one that I'm going to be soldering to. Just going to touch the top, this resistor. Yes, it is. So let me go ahead and run out a long jumper. I'm not sure exactly what the function of this is, but when this line is not there, maybe it's part of the voltage detection, the console refuses to boot. Okay. I'm going to carefully route this. Bring it over here, and that's going to let me tin the via where this is supposed to be. Get my hobby knife. Do a little oops. Scraping right there, so that we can make a little solder ball joint. I'm gonna have to put that dumb connector back, but I just want to make sure this is working. And then I think I'll have to put this into a part 2 because I'm getting tired and maybe I could feed it through that via. Just 1 second. I want to see if I could feed it through manually. Ay, ay, ay. That's not going through. Let me see if I can finally get a solder ball on there. That's all I need. Such a small spot too. I'll be right back. I'm gonna try something different, but I'm having trouble. Okay, I've routed the wire into the via. That took a little bit of persuasion. But now, I think what I can do is just kind of solder that in place. Let me scrape the tip of my iron really well. Let me place my tip right on the spot. Hold it in place. That's it. Trim the other side. Let me just show you what that looks like. Wire's just sticking out right there, so I'm just gonna snip it. Now the real question is, will it work now? Consistently, without that dab of alcohol. It's working. It's working. Okay, now let me assemble and test. Guess what? It works. I'm using my bottom screen, but it's working. So, I'm going to call this a success. I'm going to have to talk to the customer about buying a new lower screen. I'll test the other lower screen again, but it's looking like it's going to be the same deal with this bottom screen. I think the bottom screen was screwed up. This was a crazy one. I honestly think that the original power IC was fine. It was just that it was so intermittent, I thought that's what it was. I thought it was the only thing it could be because the power and the switch were both connected to the power IC. So I'm going to call it for that one. This is a success. Sound is working. Touch is working. I did go ahead and replace that touch connector, although I didn't show that on this video. But I just wanted to show kind of the troubleshooting process. This is, every time it's something new. If you have a console that's near and dear to you and you want it repaired, and you're having trouble figuring it out, you could either hit me up in the Discord that's going to be in the description, or feel free to shoot me a message and we can set something up, and I'd be happy to work with you on getting this device fixed. Gosh, you don't know how happy I am to see that screen come on. Alright, that's going to be it for this one. Stay tuned for the next one, and I'll catch you then. Take care.